And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon. I am your host, and today we have a special episode featuring a special book, a book that, when it was announced, this guy right here was very excited for it, mostly because of a certain name that's attached to this book, but we will talk about the book also in itself. AF, buddy, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, my friend. How are you doing? Are you good over on the East Coast?
Always. Always. And we'll have a little tease for you at the very end for those of us on the East Coast, specifically involving this book. But today we are doing a special one off episode like we have with a couple other books in the past. This is for Dying Inside. This is a graphic novel from Vault Comics. And you may see a name on here, which is why AF here was very excited for this book. This is created by none other than the Pete Wentz, also writing this, Hannah Klein, and art Lisa Sterle. AF, when you saw Pete Wentz on this book, immediately that drew your attention to this, I assume.
Dude, like without a second thought, like Fall Out Boy is my favorite band of all time. And to see Pete Wentz going into comics, authoring, creating the story, helping with the story, dude, I was so in it immediately. I pre-ordered the graphic novel, so I'm just waiting for it to physically come in, but I cannot wait to talk about this book.
So, what were your expectations coming into this? Because there was a free comic book day issue that I received and essentially gave us almost like the first 20 ish pages of this. I don't know if you had access to that from where you are, but what were your expectations going in before you sat down and you read this?
So yeah, like the only thing that I've seen about this book was the art, the cover, and that immediately drew me to some sort of, okay, is this going to be like a witchy thing? Is it going to be magic? And that was basically all of the background that I had for this book. We didn't get it for Free Comic Book Day over here in South Africa, so yeah, I pretty much went in blindly.
Yeah, and I like I mentioned, I had that free comic book day issue, so I was able to essentially get the first 20-ish pages or so. And what really brought me to this book from seeing the preview pages and even the free comic book day issue was the art. Lisa Sterle's art in here, in my opinion, is fantastic, and I love the way that it's almost sectioned into the colors aspect of it all because it's very duotone, right? It's black and white, but you have a mono color kind of separating almost the chapters of the story as it goes along. You have a bluish vibe, a red vibe when you need it, so the reds really stick out when you want it to happen. Purple, greens, like the colors reflect the mood of the story as it goes along. I thought that was a very, very clever touch.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, when you get to the certain pages of the main sort of events of what's happening with um, the blood and like the heavy events in this book, you can feel that coming across with the reds. And Lisa Stoll was amazing in like just executing what the user is trying to feel in those moments.
Yeah, and I really enjoy the character designs in here too. They're pop like they pop, right? They look good, and I just can't get over those colors. I really love how like the duotone colors really set the mood. The character designs, you see this right here on the cover. Ash, who's the main character of the book. Let's not stray away from anything. This book does deal with very difficult subject matters. Very difficult subject matters. But I think the way that this was approached was not in a way that I was expecting for it to be approached for the subject matter that it was going after. And I thought it was so unique and a different take on it. So we'll go into a little bit of the story in a bit, but going back to the art, when we first see this girl's room, there's so many just music references in here. I saw a Pup
Yeah.
poster. There's a Misfits poster. Was there anything that you saw in the room that really stuck out to you?
Um, it was just her fanaticism, if I can put it like that. She's just like us, man. Like we love rock bands, we love metal music, we love the scene, and just the fact that like, everywhere you look in her room, there's so many comic book, not comic book, music artists, um, and yeah, I just I respected that from the start, right up until the end.
Yeah, so let's go. Let's get into the story because from the Free Comic Book Day issue, this is essentially a story of a girl who idolizes a musician. At one point in his life, he decided to end his life in a fairly traumatic way, and this girl Ash sees that and looks up to it and feels like she wants to mimic that and do the same, right? So what she does is she orders a dagger online from a, I don't want to say a sketchy source, but a source that I don't know if I would use. And it
On
comes in
Etsy.
on Etsy. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if I would use Etsy for anything other than a plushie, personally. But she gets the dagger, she goes through with it, but it turns out there's a twist to this because the dagger has some magical enchantedness to it that, although she wanted to end her life, this dagger granted her immortality. So now she has to go and find the person who put the enchanted spell on the dagger, so she can try to go through with her plans. But naturally, there are twists to the turn, and she kind of goes through the whole thing where it's like, I thought it was interesting for me on out because I thought this was it, you get into a trope when you deal with this subject matter, and you'll probably agree with me, where it's like, oh, there's the beauty to life, life's worth living, and all that stuff. But it doesn't take that standard trope, right? It takes more of the turn of the friends around you are the things worth living for.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it just also goes to show that um, like things happen for a reason as well. If she didn't end up contacting, if she didn't order this thing online on Etsy, if she just went downstairs and got a knife out of the kitchen, um, she would have probably ended up just like killing herself. Whereas this entire event and this entire process and this entire domino effect led her to somebody that actually ended up meaning something to her, and they just built on this friendship and they got closer, and she actually found, before this happened, she thought that there's not even going to be anybody to watch her kill herself. Nobody loves her enough to even be there to be with her, to watch her kill herself. And then through this entire process, she found somebody that actually loves her for who she is, and she actually loves for who they are. So yeah, I love that sort of um, just like storytelling where things happen for a reason.
And this does also have an interesting B plot as well. It's not just about Ash and the dagger and the friends she makes along the way. It's also about how there's like the drug aspect of it all, this medicine that's this antidepressant in the end, right? And the origin of this. The B plot was very interesting because, again, it just goes down a route I wasn't expecting this book to take me.
Yeah, and I mean it's also to do with something within her household. So her mom ends up dating this doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist guy. What was his name? Dr. Greg, if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken. Yeah, and I mean this guy sounds like a douche from the offset. He sounds like one of those evil psychotic stepdads, and I mean the more we learn about him, the more we found out why he's doing what he's doing, and in a way, it goes back to that whole sort of like how people view Thanos in the MCU, and it just goes down to like, okay, I tried to see what you're saying, but dude, you went about it all wrong. Like, don't do shit like that. But yeah, like we found out that he's basically quite a big player in this entire drug process and this drugs big plot. And yeah, like the ending was quite cool, but um, the guy was a douche. I wasn't a big fan of Dr. Greg throughout this entire book.
Nor should you be. Yeah, it's a very interesting commentary on the way that people can go about approaching, stuff like this, right? And what is a harmful way to do it and what is a progressive way to do it. And Dr. Greg, this character, goes down in a very harmful way, like taking away the individualness of it all in the end, right?
Yep.
It's the wrong way to go about how he handled all of this. But I want to go back to some specific moments in this book that really made me smile. Ash finds a character who attends this concert, right? And we'll talk about this concert in a little bit, but she attends a concert and she's clearly in a bad place. And you see that Ash like really cares about people, right? Like you're able to connect to her straight from the get-go because even though this first few 20 pages or so, you get her at a fairly low point in her life. Once she goes to this concert and she's working a merch table, you really do see it's like, yeah, she's a good person.
Yeah, and I mean, like she meets so many different types of people, and like some people can be shitty. And the thing is with this character that you're speaking about, her name was Emma, and you you could see that Ash related with her personality and the way she was bringing herself across immediately. And the moment Ash saw something wrong and something didn't seem right, she just down tools immediately and just like became the friend that Emma needed in that moment, which was brilliant. I loved it.
So, Dying Inside, would you suggest it?
Yes, 100%. Because, I mean, there is elements of self harm in here. It is a very heavy book if you are not used to these sort of things, but the message that it brings across is really really good. And just be there for your friends, man. Like, you don't know who is suffering, you don't know who needs an ear, you don't know who needs somebody in their corner. It's just be there for your friends, be there for your family. And yeah, that's all that I would tell somebody in order to read this book, because there's a really good story, like easily one of the best stories that I've read in a long time, that made me feel what I needed to feel. Because when you're reading the usual Marvel DC comics, there's it's not really heavy, and I love that this made me go to a place where I don't usually go.
It's interesting because it does have like that heavy realness of it all, even though there is a magical dagger and a group of
Yeah.
witches or psychics that also intervene into all of this. So it does have some magical elements to it, but it is still on its ground level very grounded. Now, we mentioned earlier for those on the East Coast, there is a very exciting opportunity here at New York Comic Con to meet the writer Hannah Klein, and also the band, the concert that Ash goes to and is working the merch table at is Daisy Grenade. I saw Daisy Grenade back at Sad Summerfest earlier in August, and they are fantastic. They're also on tour with State Champs, so go check that out. But they will also be at the merch table, at the Vault Comics table, to sign, say hi during New York Comic Con on that Thursday at 1 o'clock. So there's a great opportunity to meet the writer as well as a great band who's coming up in the scene, and they're fantastic. So that's at New York Comic Con on that Thursday. So go check that out. This book is out now. I personally do recommend it. The art in here is phenomenal from Lisa Sterle. I just love the art. There's some good humor in here as well. So even though it is heavy subject matter, there's some really good humor in here as well. And it is just a really well done story. Again, Dying Inside, out now. Go check it out. You can hear our full thoughts on all books that are out this week on the latest episode of the Comic Corner. That is out on Thursday, so go check that out as we do our reviews every single Thursday. With it's me, TJ is not here today, but you can hear his thoughts on this week's episode, so go check that out to hear his thoughts. Go support your local comic store. Go read some comics. Until next time.